This is your walkthrough for the Module 4 study guide. The first set of problems says find 4 equivalent fractions for each fraction given. So 1/2, you need to write the original fraction, and then you need to find 4 equivalent fractions. The ones that I write may or may not be the same as yours. That is okay as long as they are equivalent. Whatever you do to the top, you have to do the bottom to find equivalent fractions. So if I multiply the numerator and the denominator, the top and the bottom, by 2, so 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. So 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. So now if I multiply the numerator and denominator by 3, 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6, so on and so forth. I'm going to multiply both by 3, so then I end up with 3 6. Multiply both by 5. Let's skip one. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 3/8, you're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 1. Sorry, by 2. 1 would give me the same fraction. 3 times 2 is 6. 8 times 2 is 16. Now I'm going to do by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 8 times 3 is 24. I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 8 times 4 is 32. And I'm going to skip to 5 again. 3 times 5 is 15. 8 times 5 is 40. The next set of directions, it says change each of these mixed numbers into improper fractions. Change each of these improper fractions into mixed numbers. So when you change a mixed number into an improper fraction, you're going to multiply the whole number by the denominator. So 3 times 4, that would be 12. And then you're going to add the numerator. 12 plus 3 is 15. And you're going to keep the same denominator. So 15/4. If you were to draw this in a picture form, just so you have another visual, and this is an option that you can do on your test if it helps you. So I have 3 holes, and I know that the denominator tells me how many parts are in my hole, so I have 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, and then I have 3/4 of a hole. 1, 2, 3. And if I count how many fourths I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's my 3 holes times 4 parts, that's 12, plus my 3 more, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm only going to draw a picture for that first one. But again, if you need to do so, please feel free. Whole number times denominator is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. The denominator stays the same because the parts are sevenths. So 9/7 is the same as 1 2/7. When you change an improper fraction into a mixed number, you can either use division or repeated subtraction, which is division. So you have to take out a whole, and a whole is whatever the denominator is that tells you how many parts are in a whole, and I have 2 of them. Okay, so I'm going to take out a whole, and I'm going to put a box around it just so I can keep track. 11 minus 2 is 9. I can still take out another whole, so I'm going to keep doing that until I can no longer take any holes out. I can still take out another whole. Notice I'm continuing to box the holes so I can easily track later on. I'm going to subtract another whole. I can still take out 1 more whole. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes, and then I have 1/2 left. So this is the same as 5 1/2. That would be my answer. I can do repeated subtraction again, or I can use division. So I can say, well, what times 8 is close to 43? I know that 8 times 5 is 40. So 5 wholes, and then I have 3/8 left over. So my answer would be 5 3/8. If you wanted to check that, 8 times 5 is 40, plus 3 is 43, and 8. All right. So if I have 3/4 and 2/3, it says rewrite 3/4 and 2/3 so that they have a common denominator. In order to find a common denominator, you can list the multiples. So 4, 8, 12, 16. I can go 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, look, 12 is in common. So both of them need to be equivalent to 12. And I ask myself, how do I get from 4 to 12? I multiply by 3. How do I get, or whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I multiply 3 times 3, which is 9. How do I get from 3 to 12? I multiplied that by 4. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So that would be 8. All right, which pair of common fractions are equivalent to 3/12 and 4/5? So I'm going to start with 3/12, okay? Remember, you can divide or multiply, okay? So if I was going to divide, I know 3 fits into both of them, so it'd be 1/4, which I don't see any of those. Okay, so then if I list the multiples of 3, it would be 3, 6, 9, 12, so on and so forth. So I see there is one that is 9. So how do I get from 3 to 9? I multiply by 3. If I multiplied 12 times 3, would I get 48? No, I would not. I would get 36. Okay, so then I know that this one is not right. Okay, if I compare this 3/12 to 12/48, to get from 3 to 12, I would multiply by 4. And so now I need to check, is 12 times 4 48? And it sure is, so this one is correct. Now let's just double check. How do I get from 4 to 16? I'd multiply by 4. If I multiply 5 times 4, I get 20. So then this is my answer. The next section says plot 5/3 and 1 1/3 on the number line. Then circle the fraction that is greater. If you recall, I had you guys write the improper fractions on the top and the mixed numbers on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Notice I knew that because it was broken into 3 parts. 3/3 is the same as 1 whole, 4/3, and I'm just going to keep going all the way across. This will make this task much easier. Maybe you don't need to do this, but it's not going to hurt you to do so. Really solidifies your understanding. So now I have 1 1/3, 1 2/3. Oops. Then I have 2, 2 1/3, 2 2/3. All right, so now I'm looking for 5/3. Well, that's easy. That one's there. And 1 1/3, which is here. I'm going to go back to my question. It says, then circle the fraction that is greater. Which one is bigger? Oh, 5/3 is greater. All right. A recipe calls for 2/3 of a cup of water, 1/6 of a cup of sugar, and 3/12 of a cup of flour. Which ingredient did she use the smallest amount of? Okay, it's very important we look at the question. It might say the smallest, it might say the greatest. Okay, we have to make sure we understand what the question is asking us to do. So I need to compare 2/3, 1/6, and 3/12. However, I cannot do that currently because they are all different denominators. So I need to find a common denominator for all of them. I'm going to start over here by listing the multiples. 3, 6, 9, 12, 6, 12, And then, oh look, 12. So they all have a 12 in common. So this one is already at 12ths, so I'm going to leave it. And I'm going to change the other two into 12ths. How do I get from 3 to 12? Well, I multiply by 4. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 2 times 4 is 8. How do I get from 6 to 12? I multiply by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 1 times 2 is 2. So now I have 8 twelfths, 2 twelfths, 3 twelfths. If I go back, it says which ingredient did she use the smallest amount of? Well, 2 twelfths is the smallest. So now I need to go back. Okay, that was 1/6 of a cup of sugar. So they want to know the ingredient, so the answer is sugar. Mary and Beth compare the amount of turkey they ate for Thanksgiving. Mary ate 1 2/3 pounds of turkey. Beth ate 6 pieces of turkey that each weighed 1/4 of a pound. Who ate more turkey? Show your work. So I have 1 2/3 pounds of turkey. Beth ate 6 pieces of turkey that weighed 1/4, so I know that that's 6/4 pounds. Well, who ate more turkey? Well, I can't compare because they are in different forms, different denominators. So I'm going to choose, there is more than one strategy to accomplish this, but I'm going to convert my mixed number to an improper fraction and then find a common denominator. So whole number times denominator, 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. That's 5/3 of a pound, okay? So I'm going to list my multiples, 3, 6, 9, 12, 4, 8, 12. If I look, 12 is a common denominator. I'm going to do this over here. How do I get from 3 to 12? I multiply by 4. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 5 times 4 is 20. How do I get from 4 to 12? I multiply by 3. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 6 times 3 is 18. So it says, who ate more turkey? Well, what's bigger, 20 twelfths or 18 twelfths? So 20 twelfths. So whoever ate 1 2/3 pounds, so that would be Mary. So Mary ate more turkey. All right, this next part is conversion chart. You are going to have this conversion chart, 2 sides, same one you've used throughout, available to you for your test, okay? So I'm just going to use my conversion chart, okay? So I have 36 inches and I need to know, well, how many feet is that? If I look at my conversion chart, I can see that 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. I have 36 inches. If you notice, I have written here, if I'm going from inches to feet, I'm going to divide by 12. So I'm going to say 36 divided by 12. Well, I know, because I can use my multiplication chart, well, 36 divided by 12, that is 3. 36 divided by 12 is 3. So 36 inches is 3 feet. Okay. If I didn't know how to divide using my multiplication chart, or I didn't know the algorithm, I could just use repeated subtraction. So I could say 36 minus 12, that equals 24, minus 12, that equals 12, minus 12 equals 0. So how many holes do I have? 1, 2, 3. I have 3 whole feet. All right, 10 feet equals how many yards in feet? So if I go from feet to yards, 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. So I'm going to say 10 minus 3, that's 1 yard, that is 7. Minus 3, that's another yard, which equals 4. I can still take 3 feet away. Minus 3, I have 1 foot left over. So I have 1, 2, 3 yards and 1 foot left over. The next, it says how many gallons is 16 quarts? So I'm going to look at my conversion chart and I see that 1 gallon is 4 quarts. So I have 16 quarts. And if I'm going from quarts to gallons, I'm going to divide by 4. So 16 divided by 4 equals 4. Or what times 4 gives you 16, which would be 4. So 4 gallons is the same as 16 quarts. This last one is if I'm going from ounces to pounds. So how many pounds is in 56 ounces? So here we go. We're going ounces to pound. We're dividing by 16, or that repeated subtraction. Okay, so I'm going to say 56 minus 16. That's 40. 40 minus 16. It's 24. 24 minus 16 is 8. So I have 3 pounds here, but I still have 8 pounds left, or 8 ounces left, I'm sorry. If I look at my chart, 8 ounces is the same as half of a pound, 5/10 of a pound. So what I actually have here is 3 1/2 pounds, or 3.5. All right, so this chart, we've done a lot of these tables where we are converting feet to inches, inches to feet. If I have 3 feet, I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So if I have 3 feet, I'm going to do 3 times 12, which I know is 36 inches. 48 inches divided by 12, okay, is 4. That one's done. If I have 5 feet, I'm going to multiply it by 12 because there are 12 inches in a foot, so I have 60 inches. Word problems. A python is 4 feet long. After a couple of years, it grew 96 more inches. How long is the python now? Show your thinking. Please notice that I want your answer in feet. So that's going to tell me I need to change this 96 inches into feet. I want to know the total length. This is what it started with. This is how much it grew. I want to know the total length in feet. So let's convert this 96 inches into feet. If I'm going inches to feet, I'm going to divide by 12. If you look at your multiplication chart, 96 divided by 12, that is 8. So this is actually 8 feet long. So it started with 4 feet, it gained 8 feet. I need to know the total feet. So I'm going to say 4 plus 8. I know that is 12, so the total is 12 feet long. Last 2 is regarding line plots. How many patrons checked out less than 3 books? So we're not going to include the 3, just everything less. You're just going to count the X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 patrons. Patrons are people checked out less than 3 books. How many more books did the patrons with the most books check out than the least amount? So 1, 2, 3, whoops. This is 6. It should be, it's kind of a weirdly worded question. I want to know what the difference is from the greatest amount of books checked out to the least. So I'm going to say 6 minus 1, that is 5. This down here, you will get something like this, but you are, to help you with the conversions, this is what you would see on an IAR. So that's why we put that on there. But you are also going to have this again to use.